She walked into work that morning with confidence, unaware that her presence alone would ignite the worst kind of prejudice. A police officer, sworn to protect, decided to humiliate her, mocking her skin, her identity, her very existence. He thought she was powerless, someone he could belittle without consequence. But what he didn't know was that this woman carried a truth that would turn his world upside down. How quickly can arrogance turn into regret when the tables suddenly turn? It was supposed to be just another day. Alicia, a dedicated professional, had worked her way up through years of persistence and quiet resilience. She carried herself with dignity, not just for herself, but for all the young women who looked up to her. Each morning she walked into her workplace ready to lead, unaware that her success stirred unspoken resentment in some. To her, this was simply the routine, coffee in hand, head held high, preparing for another busy day. But behind the polished badge of authority, someone was waiting. Someone who saw her not for her achievements, but for the color of her skin. And that simmering prejudice was about to spill into the open in a way she never could have expected. At first, it seemed like harmless banter, the kind of casual arrogance that too often slips through unchecked. The officer leaned back, smirking, his words dripping with mockery as he sized Alicia up. He didn't see her professionalism, her years of hard work, or the respect she had earned. He only saw what he wanted to see, a black woman who, in his mind, didn't belong in the room. His tone wasn't just dismissive, it was calculated, sharp enough to cut, cruel enough to humiliate. Whispers rippled through the space. Some lowered their eyes, uncomfortable but silent. Others chuckled nervously, choosing safety over conscience. Alicia felt the sting, not just of his words, but of the silence that followed. It was a silence louder than any insult, a silence that told her she was alone. But Alicia wasn't the kind of woman to shrink. Inside, she carried the weight of every time she had been underestimated, doubted, or overlooked. Still, as the officer's ridicule grew bolder, there was a part of her that questioned. How far would he go? How much venom could he spit before someone stepped in? The air thickened with tension. His voice carried across the room louder now, as if he wanted an audience. He mocked her intelligence, her presence, her very right to stand where she stood. Each insult was a test, a push to see if she would break, and each moment of laughter or silence from those around her only added fuel to his cruelty. Alicia's hands tightened at her sides. Outwardly, she remained composed. Inwardly, her pulse raced, her breath measured as she weighed her next move. She had the power to end this charade with a single revelation, but timing mattered. To expose him too soon would lessen the impact. To wait meant enduring the storm a little longer. The officer leaned in, closing the distance, certain he held all the control. His smirk widened, his arrogance unshaken. And then, he crossed a line. His words weren't just insulting anymore, they were venomous, designed to strip away dignity. A hush fell over the room. Everyone knew the weight of what had just been said. Some shifted uncomfortably, others looked away. But Alicia remained still, silent, unreadable. She let the tension hang, her strength quietly building. Because what the officer didn't know, what no one in that room had yet realized, was that the balance of power was about to shift in a way that would leave him speechless. The room held its breath. The officer, drunk on his own authority, delivered one final insult, a cruel jab meant to crush any sense of pride Alicia carried. His words echoed, heavy and poisonous, staining the air with every syllable. He believed he had won. He believed his rank, his badge, and his arrogance made him untouchable. But Alicia didn't flinch. Slowly, deliberately, she stepped forward. The silence grew unbearable as all eyes followed her. Then, with calm precision, she reached for the folder in her hand and laid it on the table. On the front, her name, printed bold, followed by a title that froze the officer in place, Director of Internal Affairs. In that instant, the color drained from his face. The same woman he mocked, ridiculed, and dismissed was not just an employee, she was his superior. The power he thought he wielded shattered like glass. Every smirk, every insult, every ounce of venom he had spewed suddenly came back like a mirror reflecting his own shame. A hush swept through the room, heavy and suffocating. Co-workers who once laughed or looked away now stared, stunned, as the truth unfolded before them. The officer's arrogance collapsed into fear. His hands, once steady and commanding, now trembled at his sides. And Alicia? She stood taller than ever. Not because of the title on the paper, but because in that moment she embodied every black woman who had been underestimated, disrespected, or silenced. Her strength was undeniable, her presence unshakable. The question that lingered in the air was no longer about her, it was about him. What happens when the mask of power is ripped away and the oppressor must face the weight of his own actions? The officer's arrogance dissolved in seconds, but the damage of his words could not be undone. Alicia had exposed him, not through anger or retaliation, but through undeniable truth. His downfall was immediate: disciplinary action, loss of credibility, and a reputation forever scarred. Yet the true victory wasn't his punishment. It was the reminder that dignity, strength, and justice cannot be erased by cruelty. For Alicia, the incident was not a moment of triumph, but a painful confirmation of what she already knew. Racism doesn't always wear a mask of violence. Sometimes it hides in smirks, in whispers, in silence that excuses injustice. But when exposed, it crumbles under the weight of truth. Her story rippled beyond that room. It reminded colleagues, communities, and countless others watching from afar that prejudice thrives when left unchecked, and that courage is the only force strong enough to break it. Alicia's strength was not just her title, but her refusal to be diminished by hate. And yet, her experience is not an isolated story. It mirrors a reality too many still face every day. The question isn't whether racism exists, it's how long we will allow it to fester in silence. How many more Alicias must endure humiliation before society decides enough is enough? This story may have ended with one man's shame, but the larger fight remains. So ask yourself, the next time you witness injustice, will you turn away, or will you stand like Alicia, unshaken in the face of hate?